Come on, bitch, let's go. Come on, get ready, bitches. You haven't seen nothing yet. Come on.
Valentino, Versace, Lamborghini, Bugatti. I got money to burn. I'm single and I'm naughty.
Come on.
Tiffany's, Cartier, Gucci, Armani.
Come on.
Break out your black card, boys. It's time to party.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a good week. The weather's been finally warm in Florida, where I am now. I'm waiting for my best friend to come from LA. She said that when she went back to Malibu, it was very depressing, just seeing it as it is now, and everybody's sad and really makes it hard to know what to do with yourself. Meanwhile, all the restaurants for lunch and dinners have gotten so expensive in LA. And as a real estate broker, which my best friend is, she's just like, I don't know. It just seems like a bureaucratic nightmare everywhere. And everyone had to throw out all their things on their patio, even if they weren't affected by the fire, because they were inundated with smoke. So she was telling me how she had to get everything off her porch, and her pool's covered in soot and dust everywhere. Oh, gosh, it sounds terrible. And I think of the older people dealing with all this. Myself, I've been doing a rebuild after I had 4 catastrophes. Was it 3 or 4 catastrophes this year that damaged my things? And it just takes such a physical and emotional toll on you as a person. Forget your property. I'm just saying emotionally. And also you stop working out, you stop eating right because you're living in a hotel and you're eating at restaurants. And it's just all encompassing, the damage it does. Anyway, just wanted to send my thoughts out to everybody dealing with this. As I start to see the light at the end of my own tunnel, I'm thinking of you. So yesterday I dropped a Donald Trump Jr. deep dive. And as I was going through it, there was something I forgot to mention. So I wanted to put this in the show today. Do you guys think at all the fact that Donald Trump Jr.'s ex-girlfriend, Kimberly Guilfoyle, was married to Newsom in California ever plays into some of the dynamics of the relationships between Donald Trump Jr.'s dad, Donald Trump, President Trump, and Governor Newsom? Let's just pretend this is a reality show, right? Not politics. Can you imagine having your dad have to negotiate with your ex-girlfriend who you were really serious about, engaged to and everything, and you probably heard all the worst stories about Newsom from her because it's her ex, regardless of politics and all that, right? And then your dad, who knows all this drama too, has to do negotiations on what the federal government in California is, doing to deal with all this mess in California. And I just thought of how odd that dynamic must be, just trying to keep it strictly about the politics and, obviously your fiduciary duty and your governmental roles. But then there's this added dynamic, Donald Trump knows all my dirty laundry from my ex, I just say it. I didn't say it in my video yesterday, but I was thinking it. Anyway, so you have to let me know what you guys think about that. Do you think that ever plays into politics? I'll tell you what. Politics these days are getting more and more like reality TV, and I'm practically as addicted. I kind of want to cover politics, not for any righteous reason, just because it's reminding me of reality TV, and I'm obsessed with reality TV, as you guys know. And there's definitely a shift in things. I have a lot of Patreons saying, do more reality TV. And then I have almost the same amount of patrons saying, don't do so much reality TV. I'm sick of it. I'm bored of it. It's not as good as it used to be. Do something else. Which then makes me glad that I cover a wide spectrum of topics in the Patreon. It's tough for me to balance everybody's needs, but I do my best. And I definitely think it reflects a change in society at the moment, but I'm not trying to get deep on that right now. Today we're going to cover that result of that murder trial with the producers who, dumped 2 women after a night of partying in 2 hospitals. They finally had that trial, and we did cover that in the Patreon. So I want to just tell everybody what happened with all that. I want to finish Salt Lake City. We're going to wrap that sucker up with the reunion part 3. And I did read more of Heather Gay's book, and I want to tell you some of the highlights that I think you would care about. In the beginning of the book, there wasn't a lot of juice, honestly, just some insight into how Heather Gay operates outside of what I said in last week's show. So this week I have a little more to report on that. Also, I got some exclusive tea about this, which I can't wait to share. And then I have some gossip I just want to make sure you guys are aware of at the end, okay, that I'll give you. So let's have some fun, shall we? Let's bring in the crazy music that gets you guys going in the AM or annoys the shit out of you, depending on your mood.
Come on, bitch, let's go.
So Good Time Girl with Heather Gay. Let me tell you what I've learned about Heather Gay from reading her book so far. First of all, when Heather Gay was young, she worked as a technical writer for many years, which explains why she's excellent at writing. When you read the book, you can tell she's a seasoned writer. In addition to that, it explains why in some of her scenes, she's able to deliver very articulate renditions of what happened or one-liners or, you know, in the end, the proof, receipts, timeline, that whole speech she gives. I do think she wrote it ahead of time. I've said that before, but she's like a pro writer. You know, when you hear scenes that I think Heather Gay is saying that sound super, super well delivered, like a speech, they probably are based on this information. In addition to that, what becomes clear is that Heather Gay in her life have had these moments where she lets it rip, very similar to what we're seeing on the show, where she'll give in to this desire to just be drunk, you know, be messy. And then she kind of pulls back into her shell again and, you know, her anchorage point, which is that she's deep down like this good girl who, you know, still has a lot of the ideas that Mormon religion pounded into her head over years, you know, haunting her and her behavior. What is a little hard in the book is that Heather is constantly, I guess, in her introspection about her own loathing of herself. Instead of you feeling bad for Heather, you kind of get this feeling of like it's more of her problem versus the world's problem. And what do I mean by that? Well, for example, she spends a whole chapter talking about how certain components of her wedding day and her relationship with her previous husband were just letdowns. But at the basis of that was this idea that Heather Gay built up in her head as to almost like a Disney-esque, what is it to be married? What is a wedding like? Maybe this is also the Mormon religion, you know, strive for perfection. It could be that too. But needless to say, she's like a little girl almost in the way she perceives a husband should be, what he should be as a father. On her wedding day, how it should go down and she should look, you know, what should be the last picture on the day that she has for her memories, because it's important to her, this picture in her mind she's trying to achieve. But she doesn't just do that with one thing. Like you could see, okay, well, you know, all young girls strive for the perfect wedding and all these things. She does it with everything. And what you start to realize is in Heather Gay's mind, everything that she's hoping for is so perfect that no one or anything can actually achieve it. Also, she can't achieve it for herself even. So whereas you would normally feel bad for her, you don't. You actually feel like, snap out of it, lady. No, weddings aren't perfect. Get into reality. They're not like a Disney movie. Relationships with men generally are failures to a lot of women's ideals of what they should be. Most of the time, life is a tough situation and things are generally awful and ugly. And who are you to think they should be any different? And I suppose that's the struggle with Heather. And now I really understand a lot more about why her cast members always complain that Heather plays the victim. victim and things like that. Because I think what they're saying is kind of aligned with what you feel in this book about the way Heather talks about things, which is because she can never achieve the perfection in her mind, she tends to blame everybody around her that they cause this negative reaction she's having to a particular experience. And so she's blaming everybody around her. You know, this person let her down, that person let her down, this person said this to her, which caused her to feel a certain way and, you know, destroyed her psyche. Whatever it is, it's never her viewpoint, which is the problem. It's always the people around her that are failing this viewpoint. So it really comes off as a sense of entitlement. Now, that said, this frustration I had with Heather's viewpoint on how things should be and how they've let her down, even though I didn't feel bad for her, I thought that she was very good at kind of observing herself as she talked about them and how she uses her different, I guess disappointments is the way I'd really describe it in almost every chapter about things to alter her own self for the better. And I thought that was interesting. For example, she learns in one chapter that she has two cats, one cat that really loves her easily and another cat that doesn't love her. In fact, they're like frenemies in the beginning, and then they go on this kind of life. I'm not going to tell you what happens. It's not worth telling, but it's like a rite of passage together. And at the end, the cat does show her love, and she tends to appreciate that cat's love more than the first cat that gave it easily. And so that teaches her a little bit about relationships for her. So like that's an example. Where is their tea? Okay, well, one good tea item was that when Heather Gay got her agent, she ended up getting a big agent in LA who represents a lot of famous people like Dolly Parton in their book deals, a lit agent. And she gets to go out and meet with him and celebrate the book deal that she gets, which is with one of the biggest, most reputable publishers in the industry, which is Simon Schuster, way bigger than Andy Cohen's publishing company, like a big deal. And she goes out and she brings a friend of hers with her, and they go to Craig's. She stays at the Mondrian. Her friend wants to stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel. She convinces her to stay at the Mondrian, and they end up going to Craig's, and they all end up getting drunk and having an awesome, fun time. And she then goes off to the Abbey, and she meets a straight guy at the Abbey, which is so hard to do. I don't know how she did that, but she did. And then that guy ends up liking Heather Gay, and they have a one-night stand really fast. You know, literally, like she goes up with him. Everybody else goes for party breakfast. She goes upstairs with him. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. He leaves. And then her roommate, who's her friend that flew in for the book thing, comes up and is hanging out with her like an hour in or whatever. And meanwhile, Heather Gay falls down because she's drunk, and she falls on her back and she cuts herself open right before this tryst happens. So we see more of this kind of behavior that we kind of witness with the black eye scene, right? Which of course happens on TV in Salt Lake City. Now, people were speculating who was this friend that Heather Gay was partying with. Also, there's a story where the friend loses her diamond ring, which is her wedding ring, and they're hungover trying to find the ring, and then the friend finds it in the last moments. And the whole time Heather Gay's thinking she's being punished because her friend flew in to help her with all this stuff to do with the book and party with her. And now here her friend has lost her ring. Is the karma hitting her for partying so crazy? But then the friend finds it. And also the friend wanted to stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and Heather made her stay at the Mondrian, which was obviously free because the book people pay for it. But so there's all this like head shit going on with Heather during all this. But a lot of people wondered who the friend was. And see, the thing is, I got some tea on this because my friends were at Craig's the night that Heather did this whole thing. And I saw who she was with through them because we have eyes and ears everywhere in the Patreon. And it was Angie Harrington. It was Angie Harrington, who was a popular friend of and guest star of the show. You know, she was very authentic to who she really is on the show. So therefore, even though they wanted her to come back, she didn't feel like it was a good fit for her, that type of show. That was kind of a tea thing. Another tea thing was that Angie Katsanevis and her are closer than she appears on the show. Angie Katsanevis is always trying to set Heather Gay up, and Heather Gay acknowledges that Angie has been with her husband since they were in high school practically. So like really young, they start dating. And she's only been with Sean. That's interesting. And Heather said that she learned from Angie Katsanevis about taking chances. And she put that in her book, just like a strange shout out to one person that we didn't think was very close to Heather on the show, right? And turns out she's like got her own chapter in the book. And then she does a whole chapter about Jen Shah. And she explains how she got Jen Shah on the show, and that indeed Jen Shah was the one that got the show going because they had casted everybody else, but it wasn't enough to greenlight the show. And then Jen was the reason it got greenlit. And she explains that Jen Shah would have tantrums with her off the show in real life, and she would want to walk away from Jen on numerous occasions, but felt like she couldn't because of the TV show, but also because she was kind of addicted to, I guess, the dramatics of Jen Shah in a way. And Jen Shah did this type of lashing out behavior off camera to every single woman on the show, and they were all used to it. But it was like being with an abuser in a way, was kind of what came across. She talks about the black eye. She sticks to the same story as she said on the TV shows, that she blacked out. She couldn't remember. That Jen Shah said, "Did I do that to you?" And Heather was like, "I don't know if she did it to me or not, but it felt like she kind of did, sort of implied, but she doesn't say she did straight up," which is me telling you that I know that Jen didn't do it. And so as a result of that, Heather's trying to stick with what came out on TV and what she said in the press junket, but at the same time, not say Jen Shah did it and this is how it went down, because she can't say that because it's not true. So the bottom line is she's really kind of playing the politics of Bravo in that chapter, which was disappointing because what I heard was very similar to the one night stand story that I just told you, where this guy rips off Heather Gay's clothes and she trips and falls over her suitcase and bashes her back and bleeds. Well, the story I heard about Heather's black eye was that she was really drunk and high and whatever else they were doing. Don't know, maybe not high, but I heard high. The gossip was, and that she hit her eye on something in the bathroom. It was like an apparatus, a sink, a weirdly shaped object, something in the bathroom hit her eye. And she was like, "I'm an idiot. I can't believe I did that." And then the next morning when Jen said on camera, like, "Did I do that to you?" She kind of ran with that, with the producers kind of coaxing her in doing that. And then also, they did a whole investigation and she never would tell what happened. She said she blacked out. They couldn't figure it out from the camera footage and they left it at that, whatever that means. Okay, but you guys know that Jen's reached out to me through her people from jail to say when it all happened, "Thank you for saying it wasn't what happened because I didn't do it." And so there was that too. Jen saying that separately to me through her people later. So anyway, she dances around it in the book again, which I was really bummed out that she didn't just admit it finally. But whatever, maybe there's legal reasons she can't. So she moves on after that. And the other tea that we learn is she started Beauty Lab because she felt like she could never keep up with looks and trying to look better and better and better. And she realized from other people that she wasn't pretty, even though she felt pretty when she was younger. And that was her inspiration for creating Beauty Lab, like a place that everybody could just one-stop shop and get, you know, beautified in whatever way they wanted, nice and easy. And she felt like that was something she needed and wanted, but she resented it, by the way, at the same time. So there's a contradiction there in Heather for sure. Oh, she said something else about Jen Shah. She said Jen Shah was screaming all the way to the end that she was innocent and that only the morning of the trial did she actually give any indicator that she was going to be guilty, and then called her and said she was guilty when she was to Heather. And said, "Tell Meredith, but I have to do this for my family." She didn't seem like she even was taking ownership in the call to Heather. She was sort of like, "I have to do this for my family," and that's it. She said the reason that she supported Jen Shah through that whole thing was she kept making excuses for Jen Shah, which comes, she believes, from her religion. because her religion kind of programs you a certain way. And so she would look at Jen Shah and she'd say, well, maybe she didn't know what people were using these lead lists for to sell. Maybe she wasn't the one that was actually taking the money, or I never saw Jen Shah with offshore accounts like they said, so maybe it isn't true. So she makes all these justifications, and that's what gets her through the show. But it is very hard to shoot with Jen Shah, it turns out, behind the scenes. And that is definitely something that comes across in Heather Gay's story. Like, she almost wished production fired her. And they never fired Jen during the show. It wasn't until later, because production always protected Jen because they needed her for the show. That comes across. It's not directly said, but it's alluded to a few times. So then there's a chapter dedicated to Monica Garcia, and the way that Heather Gay breaks it down is she starts off by saying that Monica Garcia's name was like Millie May or something. Sorry, Wesley May. And she had a perfect Mormon-looking Instagram that she prepared. And she also did have a baby blanket company, but the baby blanket company was called something else. And she says that Monica Garcia changed her name for the TV show when she started to cast to Monica Nikki Garcia, and that was like a made-up name that she did for the show to cast. And she changed it on her Instagram. And she also changed the name of her baby blanket company to La Brea, which was Monica Garcia's favorite street or something in Los Angeles. And then she goes on and starts to read all of DMs between Monica and someone else, but we don't know who it is. And Heather tells the story like it's very factual, like the DMs that Monica is saying is the facts to this person. She also must have access to Monica Garcia's casting tape, because Monica must have sent it to someone, because production wouldn't have given it to Heather Gay. So someone that Monica sent her casting tape to ended up giving it to Heather Gay for the book. So Heather describes what she says in her casting tape. She shows all these different DMs, or talks about all these different DMs that Monica Garcia thinks are private, but she's sending it to her friend, and reads them essentially on the book. Then she says that there's proof that Monica Garcia, with her husband, finds ways to get into Jen Shah's neighborhood and drive around. And, you know, you can tell that they're excited about the wealth in the neighborhood. And Monica Garcia, from a very early point, really wants to plug into, I guess, friends that are rich and influential and wanting to be famous, is the way that Heather tells it, as she's going through her proof receipts and timeline. She breaks it down like that. So in other words, this chapter is dedicated to what Heather Gay was alluding to, that she was relying on in that final season for Sane, which we don't see on the show. So she also tells a story that Monica Garcia tried to reach out to several cast members before she ever even knew Jen Shah to get on the show or get a casting, and none of them would let her in. And then she pinpointed Jen Shah and found out that Jen Shah needed someone to do stuff in her house. So she had her husband respond to the ad that Jen Shah put up on Thumbtack, and Jen hired her husband, but Monica went along. And then Monica tried to become friends with Jen Shah to, like, again, get on the show. And then Jen Shah and her became friends, and she helped out with financial things and Monica's kids from time to time. And Monica was like, wow, her life is so amazing. And she became like an assistant to Jen Shah. And then Jen Shah started to feel like Monica was using her for the show or other things. And so she ghosted Monica. And when that happened, Heather said that Monica flipped out. That's when she broke in on the security camera footage, because she had installed it or helped Jen install it as an assistant, started watching Jen and DMing that she was watching Jen to her friend, and then leaking through Reality Von T's Jen's abuse that she was doing on her staff members and employees. And she found her desire for fame being quenched by Reality Von T's, because the account became really popular and a lot of the Salt Lake City cast was interacting with that account. So she finally was getting this feeling like she was in. She also said that Monica aggressively tried to reach out to the FBI and help them with Jen's case to take her down, but the FBI didn't want her to help and told her that at this time they didn't need her, but they would let her know if anything came up in the future. But she was like that vicious. Was Heather's depiction of Monica in terms of the takedown of Jen Shah. Now, in Monica's mind, I have a feeling that she was thinking Jen Shah is an abuser. She abuses everyone, which she did. And Heather actually admitted that in her book, that behind the scenes, she would have these ridiculous tantrums where she would freak out on everybody to the point where Heather almost wants to get her fired or like thinks about it seriously because it's so uncomfortable for Heather. And so I'm sure Monica at one point was like, this bitch needs to be exposed. She's unhinged and she's hurt a lot of my friends like Koa because Monica's tight with Koa. And so I think from that standpoint, she was like, let's do it. And then I think when she started to figure out what Jen Shah was doing wrong in terms of lead lists and taking advantage of the elderly before the indictment went down, which she did start to figure out, she really turned on her because she was like, well, this is an awful person. So Monica could justify it even more, trying to get her in trouble to sort of stop her from moving forward. And I'd say based on Jen Shah's personality and her attacks on people, she probably had a big altercation at some point with Monica that made Monica want to really destroy her. I don't know that, but I'm guessing. This is Monica's justification for acting in the way she did and breaching confidentiality and, you know, someone's security system and all these things. Okay, am I justifying that? No. And I'd say Monica would absolutely, now that she's not so angry and been through what she's been through, probably would say that that was wrong. And she owes Jen a huge apology for that. And because it was so out of line, I think she would say that. She also tells two gossip stories that weren't DMs that she was told by whoever gave her these DMs. It's pretty obvious if you're like, bright, if you listen to the chapter, how she put it together, probably taking inspiration from the dishing drama Dana Patreon style, if I was to say it. We know this because Heather was in the Patreon, and I was very supportive to Heather always and still am, but I call it like I see it. And it's nothing personal to Heather Gay. It's just if I feel like I'm being played or if I feel like someone isn't being straight shooter with me about something, I'm going to just react the way I would normally react. Now, if you reach out to me and you say, hey, listen, Dana, don't say this or do not say that because of this, I will do it because I'm a good person. And if you're my friend or you're supporting my content and you ask me to do or not do something, great. But don't try to be covert and, be who you are. You love gossip, you're on a TV show, then own it like Rihanna does. For crying out loud. Don't try to be sneaky about it. I'm not suggesting she was because she was under her name. She wasn't using a Finsta, etc. But, don't pretend like you're anti-gossip when you love gossip, right? Like we all do. But I digress from my point. She says two stories which Monica Garcia said weren't true. Story one was that Monica Garcia was denied shooting with Jen Shah because Jen Shah was told by Coach Shah not to shoot with Monica Garcia, okay? Because he supposedly had some sort of interlude with Monica Garcia that she told everyone about, and Coach Shah denied it, okay? So those stories are kind of linked, although in the chapter she tells them separately. So Monica said, first and foremost, Coach Shah never tried to hit on her, and she never said he did. And that is a complete fabrication. So she doesn't know where that came from. Number two, she said Jen Shah did not want to shoot with her in season 3, that something else made that not happen. She didn't tell me what it was, but she said that that wasn't the reason, that Jen Shah didn't have an issue, as far as she knew, shooting with her in season 3. It was some other factor. This is before, of course, Monica Garcia does get hired as a cast member in season 4. Heather does talk about how production approached Monica Garcia, that, they did want Monica to shoot with Jen Shah, that they enjoyed the fact that Monica Garcia may have had some beef with Jen Shah as her assistant or friend in the past. Production was definitely on board with that from what Heather Gay says. Now, Monica And Jen Shah made it really clear that production knew who Monica Garcia was the whole time she was on this show. At least casting did. Producers are like, well, we didn't know. So if casting knew, we weren't told, blah, blah, who cares? It's all one machine. Give me a break. I mean, shed casting, right? Shed media, shed. But that wouldn't be a good look for them with the backlash that happened. So what bothered me about this part of the chapter was that nobody called Monica Garcia from the publisher and or Heather Gay or someone who worked for Heather Gay to fact check this gossip story she was told. And in truth, she tells it to the reader as if it's fact, like it happened and she knows it happened. And it's not like allegedly, or the gossip I heard was, or the rumor is, or X person told me this. So it really, I didn't think was fair that she did that, because even in my shows, when I'm not sure, I'll say, this is gossip, this is alleged, I don't know, speculation. Joe told me, who's besties with Lisa Rinna, whatever, but I don't claim it to be fact. I tell you where it came from, it's sourced from. And she doesn't do that. And I thought that was very unfair. And I thought the fact they didn't call Monica was unfair to check that. And I thought that was pretty irresponsible from the publisher's standpoint, because Jen Shah's in jail, and to have a story come out that Coach Shah hit on Monica is really unfair kind of thing to do to anybody. I don't care, criminal or not, asshole, whatever, put it in a box. Don't do that if it's not real. Tell the truth. And Monica denies it. So they should have checked with her and then said, we're not going to publish the story like that. Or say that Monica says it didn't happen. However, another source at the time, X person, said it did. Boom, no problem, perfect. How about what Coach Shah says? But the way it's said is factually sounding and it's not accurate. Now, the rest of the DMs are basically a very excited Monica Garcia sharing her strategy to get on the show. And, you know, when she's able to kind of hurt Jen Shah, she's happy doing it because she sees Jen Shah as the enemy. Okay. And so Monica is like, yeah, what's up? You know, she talks the way she does. And Heather Gay reads those messages and a very obviously making fun of Monica and the way she talks. Okay, no problem. Monica is, you know, got that whole like influencer young person thing where she's like, yeah, bitch, that's just the way she talks. She really does talk like that, by the way. That's not for TV. That's like how she is always. But the thing is that Heather like makes it almost a bad thing that Monica Garcia dreams of being rich and wants wealthy friends and wants to be famous. And I thought to myself as I was reading it, I hear Heather Gay in that she's almost putting down that mentality. It's so cutthroat in terms of like what she's willing to do to get on the show. So I put myself in Heather's shoes and I got that. This girl really pissed Heather off. It's obvious it's personal, right? And Heather is very reasonable, but she is not reasonable when it comes to Monica. That is very clear from this chapter, okay? And what I got was that the other viewpoint is really important here, which is Monica is like a girl from a completely broken life up to this point, except for her kids, which she loves, right? You know, whether or not she always does the best thing, no mother does. Okay, people are blindly trying to learn how to parent and be good parents. And the younger you are, the harder it is. Okay, you know, it's easy for me because I had my kid really late. I had one to, you know, focus on him entirely, make every decision perfectly, you know, generate revenue for him because I'm old. And I can make better decisions because I'm wise and I have more resources and wisdom and resume to tap from. But someone who's like 21 trying to make it is going to suffer. It's going to suffer. It's going to make a lot of mistakes, is going to not do the right thing for their kid most of the time, probably because they're a kid still. Okay. They haven't mentally grown up. And, you know, you got to be a little bit tolerant, a little forgiving. And what I found was a true hypocrisy in that Monica wanted to be famous and rich. Like, who doesn't? Who doesn't as a young person struggling, who, you know, doesn't have the greatest marriage, maybe made some really fucked up choices and ended up in a place that she doesn't want to be, sees people that she perceives that have so much awesome stuff and she's just trying to copy them. And she's failing or she's succeeding in some ways. I don't know, but I mean, I just felt like, can you really fault the girl for being put in that environment and not striving for it? And yes, it is a confusing message in today's world. Should you be a cutthroat asshole and that's how you get money? Yeah, that's the message a lot of the time. It's not that you're a nice guy. I mean, I wish that was the way it worked. I certainly, not experienced that in my lifetime. I always say there's no karma. Why? Because I don't see people that do bad things get punished, honestly. Maybe with the Justice Department, but even that sometimes is questionable because sometimes I feel like they're not even acting from the true truth of what the correct situation is. They're acting through a viewpoint of a time period in society, i.e. drugs, right? Tough on crime, give people on drugs life in prison, or is it a disease and it should be treated and they shouldn't go to prison and it's not their fault because they can't control it, right? Depends on what time period you're in. When you do that, whether you're good or bad. So I felt like this chapter lacked integrity. And what came through this chapter was hurt from Heather over something that Monica did, which I would say was hurt her business, try to get on her show and steal the thunder of everyone uninvited, broke rules that Heather felt like you shouldn't break in reality TV, like self-imposed ideas of things. I felt bad for Heather that she's been hurt so bad for Monica that she wrote this chapter. And I felt bad for Monica that whoever this person was that turned on Monica and gave all this information to Heather and Heather used on her very big platform on a huge notable publisher, that person is a real shit too. And I'll tell you what, I think I know who that person was and shame on you. Okay. You came at me. You said I was bad for telling a story the way I did. You just handed over all of this internal conversation you had with a good friend for years to your employer. And you didn't bat an eye. And shame on you. Right back at you, sis. This is the problem in, our world. Who really is the good guy? All right, so now let's talk about Salt Lake City Reunion Season 5, Part 3. Ooh, I caught some lies. I can't wait to tell you. For the full scoop, join the Dishing Drama Dana Patreon. The link is in this audio description. It's only $6 a month and you'll get the best information and tea about the things you care about and even the things you don't know you care about. What are you waiting for?